Back in Google Analytics Home, let's start looking at some reporting data. So remember, our reports are over here on the left hand side. We've got our real-time report, audience report, acquisition report, behavior report, and conversions report. Let's begin with the audience report. The reports available to us in the audience report are things like our active users, lifetime value, where they are located, what their interests and demographics are, their newer returning behavior, the type of technology they use, whether it's mobile, desktop, or tablet devices. There's some cross-device stuff in there, and then some benchmarking. So let's take a look at some reports. Let's jump into the demographics report. Let's take a look at the overview. So the overview gives us a breakdown over our date range of the percentage of male and female visitors and the age groups to which they fall into. We can jump specifically into age or indeed into gender and see what that looks like if we want to maybe look at the revenue generated by each 25 to 34 year olds generate most revenue, and really people who are 65 plus don't generate a lot of revenue at all. Following on from demographics, we might be interested in what they're interested in. So these are some predefined Google categories related to the Google Display Network. So we can see that a lot of them would fall into the value shopper category. They work in marketing and advertising, and they are interested in things like arts, entertainment, TV, and online video. So this gives a light understanding of the type of interest that your visitors might be pursuing. Other reports that are of interest to us here, and we can close the report by pressing the expand here, are things like geo. So we can understand the language and location of our visitors. Language is quite important, so we ensure that we do have the correct translations or indeed the correct website up for our audience. Likewise, understanding where they are based, what countries they're based, where the most valuable countries are. So let's just sort by revenue here. We can see that the most valuable countries are the US, Hong Kong, Canada, the UK, Brazil, Philippines, South Korea, Australia, Singapore, and France. So a fairly large spread across the world. Interesting all the same. And if we want to know what things like our conversion rate look like, we can see that people in the US drive a lot of traffic, 47% of all of the traffic to the site, and 2% of those will convert, whereas people from Hong Kong have a far lower conversion rate, only one transaction, although a sizable transaction nevertheless. So geo report also quite important. Behavior is useful, and behavior shouldn't be confused with the behavior tab down here. The behavior report in audiences will show you the new versus returning visitors, your frequency of visits and the recency of visits, how much they engage, things like session quality, and this is a testing area around how likely they are to convert. So we might be interested in something around new and returning visitors, because if we have a higher number of returning visitors month on month, we know that we are doing something right because more people are coming back, and we can look at that by doing a quick comparison here. So let's just compare to the previous week, and we can see that our returning visitors has grown by an ever so slight amount week on week, but not as high as our overall, because new users have increased by almost 10% and returning visitors have increased by less than 0.5%. And the revenue has gone down if you take a look. So there's different ways to understand the data, but the value of new versus returning visitors in understanding our audiences is quite helpful. Geo is very important, and technology quite important. Now, I don't confuse technology and mobile, they are quite different. So technology will cover the browser they're using, so whether it's Chrome or whether it's Edge or Internet Explorer or Firefox or Safari, it will show you what the amount of revenue is for those different browsers. So we can see 96% of all revenue comes from Chrome users versus 2% of all revenue from Safari users. It's useful to understand any troubleshooting if you're having any issues with load times or with usability across the browsers. What's quite important is this mobile tab. So let's look at the overview area. What overview will show you is the percentage of visitors that come from desktop, mobile or a tablet. So we can see 73% come from desktop, which is up 10% week on week. 23% comes from mobile, which is actually down 0.33% week on week, and 2% come from tablet. The conversion rates differ for all of them, 1.75% or 1.47% between the two in the two different time periods, this week and the previous week. The conversion rate 1.47 to 1.75% versus 0.35. It's broadly stable there for mobile, and then tablet has increased this week from 0.53% to 1.21%. But if you actually look, there's only been 5 transactions, so it's not a statistically significant increase. This is a little bit better, and generally you're better off looking at a month view. So mobile, very important. Geo, very important. Demographics is important, of interest. Interest is important. New versus returning, quite useful. Technology can be good. It's less important, but mainly for troubleshooting. And if you want to dive into the devices, again, it's quite detailed. You see iPhone, iPads, Google, all of these different devices. So you might want to troubleshoot for devices if you're seeing drops off in conversion rates or something. And then benchmarking. Benchmarking shows you how you compare against other people within that category that we set up at the very start. So the category is not set up within this one. And then we've got things like user flow, which is quite a difficult report. And we'll take a quick look. We've got all of the interactions beginning with the country, where their starting page, second page, third page, and what that looks like. And you can see where the drop-offs are. It can be difficult to read and understand. You need a lot of traffic for it to be useful and statistically significant. There are more details and more insights to be gotten out of geo, out of mobile, out of behavior, and out of demographics for lower traffic websites. We also have things like our audiences, where we can look at our remarketing tabs. And that, in a nutshell, will give us a view of who the people are who visit our website from an audience perspective.